Hello, everyone. I just wanted to spend just a few minutes quickly explaining what is required from the financial book review paper and make sure that you know exactly what you need to do in order to get all the points. I know that all of you have other time commitments, and so I don't want you to feel like you have to spend more time on this than is necessary. Please put honest effort into it, but again, I don't want you to have to feel like you need to put more into it than is what is being asked. So, real quick, this is what you'll see in lesson 12, which you can't see yet because we're only in lesson 10, so you don't have access to it. But it says write a 2 to 3 page paper double spaced in which you address the following. Identify 5 critical components of principles you have learned from the book. Compare these concepts, principles in the book with the gospel. Are they in harmony with the teachings of the prophets and apostles? Why or why not? Reflect on how these 5 components or principles, as well as their alignment to the gospel principles, will help you in your personal financial management. Okay, so right there, it says 2 to 3 page paper, double spaced. Please make sure that it's at least 2 pages, no more than 3 pages. If it's 1 page or if it's 4 pages, you will lose a point because it explicitly says there. And so it says identify 5 components or principles that you've learned from the book. Please make sure that those are very apparent to me. You can either subtitle the paragraphs or something so that I know, this is, maybe you put a subtitle of principle 1, don't use cash, or something like that. And then you explain to me the principle of how Dave Ramsey says never to use cash and only to use credit cards, and which I'm not necessarily saying is true, but just as an example. And then you'll explain about how you'll compare the concept or the principle of not using cash. Is that in harmony with the gospel and the teachings of the prophets and apostles? Why or why not? So maybe then you'll explain how, for example, again, not necessarily true, but maybe President Monson one time has said, you quote him saying that he never uses a credit card because the credit cards are of the devil, and that he only uses cash, and that Latter-day Saints should only use cash and never use credit cards. Okay, so then so you're comparing it with the gospel and explaining more than just what I said, because you need to make 2-3 pages, right? But just as a quick example, you're explaining whether it's in harmony with the gospel, comparing it to the prophets and apostles, what they've said, explaining why it's not in harmony with the gospel. Remember that when you quote somebody or paraphrase, which means like not a direct quote, but you're saying, oh, President Uchtdorf once said something about blah, 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 blah. That's paraphrasing. So make sure when you're doing that you cite your references. You can either put in parentheses after the quotation, put, President Monson, comma, Ensign, comma, 2012, or something like that if you want to. Or you can even just put comma, President Monson, Ensign. I don't know. However you want to do that. I don't care how you reference people so long as you do it. You don't have to use like MLA or APA format or anything. But I just want you to give credit to somebody else when you're using their words. And then reflect on how each of those 5 concepts or principles, as well as their alignment to the gospel principles, will help you in your personal financial management. So maybe then after you quote President Monson saying that he never uses credit cards and that they're of the devil, maybe then you'll say that me and my wife, or my wife and I, will are going to have a family meeting where we talk about that we need to use our credit card less and start trying to use only cash, and steer away from using credit cards because of the advice that we've been given from the prophet, and blah, blah, blah. So I hope that helps kind of explain what's required of you. You don't need to fluff it up with a lot of words. I want you to explain your answer, though. I don't want you to just write one sentence, no, it is not in harmony with the gospel. That's not enough. That will not get you the points. I want you to explain why it's not in harmony with the gospel. Was there a prophet or apostle that explained that it wasn't in harmony with the gospel, or did they explain that something opposing that was in harmony with the gospel, or did they explain that it was in harmony with the gospel? And what did they say? And how is that going to help you? How does that affect your personal financial management? Okay, so this is what you see in lesson 1, and we've already, we saw this all the way back in lesson 1, but I wanted to bring this back up because you don't have access to lesson 12 yet, but you do have access to this for those of you who are already started writing their papers. Okay, so this is what I just told you right here. This is what we just explained and went over. Okay, so it tells you all the same stuff in lesson 1. And I especially would like you to look at this, please, the grading criteria. This is exactly what I am going to use. This exact box right here is what I will use to grade your papers. So you'll notice in this first box here, there are 5 items mentioned: length of paper, grammatically correct, double space, title page, reference page. If all 5 of those things are present, you get 1 point for each of them. So there's 5 points. If your paper is 4 pages, you will lose 1 point. If it's not double spaced, you will lose 1 point. If there's no title page, you will lose a point. Okay, you get the idea. The grammatically correct, I just want to point out, I'm not going to deduct a point if there's one word misspelled or something like that. But I'm going to look at it, and if it looks like you didn't proofread it, if it looks like you just, spewed words on the page and then just pressed submit, and then you're probably going to lose a point for that, because you need to look over it. And if you're writing it in Word, you'll notice that it does little red squiggly lines when you spell stuff wrong, and green squiggly lines when your grammar is wrong. So look for that, and if you see sometimes it'll red squiggly something that it doesn't know. For example, like Uchtdorf, it probably would squiggle that because it's like, that's not a word. But you can look at that and say, well, I know that's President Uchtdorf's name. But if you write harmony, but you misspell it, and it red squiggles it, then you need to look at that and go, oh, whoops, I spelled that wrong. Okay, identify 5 concepts. You get 1 point for each of the concepts. That's why I would like you to either bold the words that say concept 1 or concept 2, concept 3, or I'd like you to do some sort of a subheading or something that says concept 1, concept 2, concept 3. Just somehow make sure that I can see that there's 5 concepts on there. Because having 5 concepts is worth a point each, and then comparing each of those concepts with the gospel and whether they're in harmony with the gospel or not, and explaining that's worth 3 points each, and explaining how it's going to help your personal finances and how the alignment to the gospel, if applicable, will help your personal finances. That's worth another 3 points each. So it's really difficult for me to assign these 7 points per concept if I can't see that there's 5 different concepts. In the past, I've had students that have put subheadings, and that makes it so much easier for me. But in the past, I've also had students that did not put subheadings, and they chose 2 or 3 concepts that seemed relatively similar to me. And so since they just wrote it in paragraph form, I couldn't really tell that they had 5 different concepts. It looked to me like they had 2, or like they had 3 or 4 concepts. And so I end up marking off points, and then they wonder, well, why did you mark off points? Because I had all the concepts. And then we have to go through this back and forth explaining that this is a separate concept. And then I'm like, okay, I guess that is. And so I just want you to, if you could please help me out and just make sure that it's clear that you have 5 concepts. Okay, so last, I just wanted to show you real quick. It's not so much an example of what you should do, of what you should write, so much as how it should look. So here you have a title page. It can be real simple, just the title and your name. That's all you have to put. And then this is just text to fill up pages. So, it's not what you should be writing, but there's page 1, 2, 3. They're all double spaced. So there's 3 pages. So I have gone at least 2, no more than 3. And then the 5th page here is my reference page. And I'll put down references, reference 1, and you know, maybe I put President Monson in Zion 2012, and maybe this one is President Uchtdorf General Conference October 13 or something like that. Okay, so again, I don't care what style of reference you use, if it's MLA or APA, or if you just kind of make up your own, that's fine. If you make up your own, please put effort into it. Don't just write President Monson, because then I'm like, well, President Monson has said a lot of things. Where exactly did you hear this, right? So you need to say that it's from President Monson. You heard it in a general conference. In what year? You know, probably what month also, right? You don't have to necessarily put page numbers. I don't really care. But just please give credit to those that you quote and paraphrase. I hope this has been a useful explanation of how to do this paper, and please let me know if you have any other questions. I believe this paper will be turned in lesson 12. So let me know if you have any other questions about it. Thanks.